What's up, boxing fans? Hello again. I'm Michael Montero for Boxing Monthly. You're watching the Neutral Corner for the week of April 23rd. Don't mind me, I'm just sipping some tea. I did 15 rounds in the gym today. It's been a while, so my throat's a little scratchy just from breathing in, huffing and puffing so much. There's a lot of boxing to review from last week and some big stuff coming up this week to preview. So we're going to skip the news and notes, go right to the fight reviews. Last Friday here in Los Angeles at the Belasco Theater downtown, it was LA Fight Club again. And this was the best LA Fight Club to date. Really, really special fight put on by Golden Boy Promotions. Jesus SotoKarass, Yoshihiro Kamegai, two guys who just can't be in a bad fight. And we've had some of these fights recently where like the matchup on paper didn't quite live up to expectations once they got in the ring, right? Well, this one delivered. And for the record, because some of you have asked, the brass at Golden Boy Promotions, they considered trying to shop this to a cable network. And several of the networks were interested in putting this fight on. But they really, really wanted to do this at LA Fight Club. It's just something they wanted to do for the fans and to really promote that series and really take it to a new level and kind of make it the new Friday night fights. That's their vision with this thing. And look, this fight was awesome. Neither of these guys is going to be contending for a title. Neither of them are probably even a top 10 at their division, right? Not even close. But they put on a fantastic fight. And sometimes in sports, whether it's football, soccer, basketball, whatever it is, some of the best games you can think of, whatever sport you're a fan of, just think back. Some of the best games you've seen were not playoff games. They were regular season games that didn't mean anything, right? That's kind of what this was. But it meant something for the 500 or so fans who bought tickets, who were there, and for all the media. I go to pretty much all these cards, and there's always a pretty good media presence. There was a lot of people there that I haven't seen at any of these cards yet. There was a lot of interest for it. It just had a special club atmosphere. It's one of those things that I think these fans will be telling their friends about. Like, man, you got to come check out one of these cards. It was just exactly the way you're supposed to do it at that level. But the fight itself, look, I can go back and forth about the fight. I did a highlight video on my channel, so check that out. But real quick, it was a split draw. One judge had it for Kamegai, one had it for SotoKarass, one had it even. Most people ringside, including myself, we thought that Kamegai edged it out, but we were cool with the draw. These guys threw combined 1,800, 1,900 punches. I think Jesus SotoKarass in the 10th and final round threw over 160 punches. Just a great, great fight. And it was free for anybody, as I've told you guys, with an internet connection, ringtvlive.com. They stream these cards, and I think you could go there and still watch it if you go to ringtvlive.com. If not, like I said, I have a highlight video, and it's posted on Boxing Monthly's website. So go to Boxing Monthly's website and click on the highlight video there. I show the 10th round in its entirety. The 10th round was awesome, so make sure you check it out. But let's talk about the action on Saturday. And we'll start in Puerto Rico, where Felix Verdejo won another decision. It was another 10-rounder. He improves to 21-0, 14 knockouts. And a lot of people are saying that he's kind of regressed, right? He had surgery last year. I believe he had issues with his shoulder. And he was the prospect of the year, I believe, 2014. And 2015, he kind of took a step back because of that injury. And I think he's still kind of easing back to get to where he was. But he's had 2 fights this year already, both 10-rounders. Both of them have gone the distance. And some, people that were watching him before, they're used to him just knocking guys out. They're saying, man, there's something missing with this guy. But, look, he's still really, really young. And the most important thing, he's got 20 rounds in already this year. That's good for a prospect, okay? Sometimes you need to work on things. Sometimes you need to take a step back. If he's still tentative with using, I think it was the left shoulder, give him time. Let him work back into it. We'll see, right? But he has a fight scheduled June 11th against Jose Felix Jr., a Mexican fighter, a good quality fighter. This will be the last two fighters Verdejo's fought. He was meant to win. Those were showcase fights, and he'll be heavily favored against Felix, but it's still a good quality matchup for him. That's going to be on the the Lomachenko Gonzalez undercard, right around the Puerto Rican parade up there in New York. So really, really smart, up in Madison Square Garden, top rank, doing a smart thing there, trying to build a brand, but give Verdejo time, okay? He's still a prospect. Going over to the UK, Josh Warrington scored a unanimous decision over Japanese fighter Hisashi Amagasa, who, Amagasa arrived from Japan on Tuesday for a fight in the UK on Saturday, and he looked pretty drunk in the first few rounds, just jet-lagged. I don't know why they wouldn't have come over sooner. Now, I don't know if there was something wrong with the visa or something with the promoter. I'm not sure. But to wait that late to come over, it really did look like he was just slow and sluggish in those early rounds. But he came back in those middle rounds. And most people thought that he won those middle rounds. Warrington, for his part, he came back late in the fight and controlled the late rounds, I thought. The decision, Warrington wins a unanimous decision. The decision didn't really bother people. The right man won the fight. But one judge scored it 120 to 107. That's a horrible, horrible score. To score it completely one-sided, a shutout for Warrington. It absolutely was not a shutout. But he did land some good shots down the stretch, and I thought Amagasa looked almost buzzed in some of those later rounds. Warrington, obviously not known for his power. He has only 4 knockouts in 23 pro fights now. But he's undefeated, and I think this was for a minor regional kind of junior title, right? And he talked about Lee Selby next. I think that would be a good fight. It'd be a stylistic boxing purist fans type of fight. And it'd be a good fight over there in the UK. So if that fight happens next, I think that's one that will do pretty well over there. But that score, man, we got to do something about these scores. And that just shows it's not, bad scores are not limited to Germany or to the United States or to a particular region or athletic commission. They happen all over the place. It's a problem in boxing that needs serious addressing. Coming here to the United States, we'll start on the East Coast at Foxwoods in Connecticut. Jose Pedraza scores a unanimous decision over Stephen Smith and actually dropped him in the 9th round. Smith won 3 or 4 rounds. He hung tough. He made a good effort. And I thought, he pushed Pedraza in some of the early middle rounds. And down the stretch, he really showed some grit and some toughness. I thought it was a nice, good, solid performance from Smith. Pedraza's just better. He's just a better class of fighter. I admittedly have never seen Stephen Smith before this. And, last week I said that this was kind of a showcase matchup for Pedraza. It actually wasn't. I believe this was a mandatory situation. And Smith is a good quality fighter. But Pedraza's just better, right? I thought Pedraza looked drained, though. I thought that he looked a little bit drained. This is for his 130-pound title that he won last year. And I'm just wondering if he might look a little bit better if he bumped up a few pounds to lightweight. If he dropped that title now, he's got a couple defenses. His last defense before this one was very, very close, and some people thought he got a gift. He's looked tired. He's looked sluggish. And, it could just be that he's not the quality of fighter that many think he is. It could also be that he's a little drained and he needs to move up. But on the co-feature of this fight, or this card, Gary Russell Jr. wins a TKO in the 2nd round in a completely meaningless fight. And for all the credit we try to give, I do, to Heyman, to PBC when they do something right, and I do give them credit when they do something right. A lot of my haters out there say I don't, but I do. And I do cover PBC events, the ones that are worth covering. But it's matchups like this that just happen too much. And I'm not saying other promoters don't pull this shit. But, man, Gary Russell, look, he's fought a couple of guys that, could give him a remote challenge in his career. And of course, that one fight with Lomachenko, which he was soundly defeated. This guy's so talented. He has so much skills. If he had been brought up the right way, now he's got a title, and as soon as he wins a title, you regress and you have fights like this. And you make a good payday. It's a problem, right? When you got a guy making the paydays Gary Russell's making. He's not making huge multi-million-dollar paydays, but he's getting paid well for title defenses like this. It's not what we need. Now, he called out Lomachenko after winning this fight. He says he wants a rematch. He says he could win it. Look, man, does this fight prove anything? Beating, I think it's the Irish fighter, Patrick Hyland, I think was the name. Does this warrant a rematch with Lomachenko, who's going up in weight and challenging a good fighter on June 11th for another title? No, it doesn't warrant a Lomachenko rematch. Gary Russell, get your ass in the ring against a top-rated fighter and earn the rematch. But sticking on the East Coast there, we're just going to go a little further down to New York in Brooklyn at Barclays, which, is really becoming, I think, one of the little hotbeds. I don't want to say hotbed, but a fun venue where some good quality fights are happening, kind of becoming the StubHub center of the East Coast. And admittedly, I haven't been to that venue yet. So I need to get out there for one of these Barclays fights. But this was a nice triple header, at least on paper, put together by the PBC. And, I thought this card just made the other card look horrible. And some of these fights actually delivered. Let's start with the cruiserweight fight. The Polish fighter Krzysztof Golovkin wins a unanimous decision over American Steve Cunningham, who at one point was the legitimate, undisputed cruiserweight champion of the world. And then he went up to heavyweight and had very, very poor results, as most cruiserweights do. And he was dropped 4 times in this fight. 4 times. He finished the fight in his feet, but he looked really, really bad. I want to say he's pushing 40 if he isn't 40 already. He fought to a draw with fat, old, bloated, drugged up Antonio Tarver last year. It's time for Steve Cunningham to retire. You go back 5 years or more, probably 7 or 8 years, Steve Cunningham beats Krzysztof Golovkin. At least maybe he doesn't always beat him. Maybe they split fights if they fight 3 or 4 times. But he's very competitive. You look at his fight with his first fight with Tomasz Adamek, right? That was a very, very close competitive fight. And if he wouldn't have got dropped in that fight, he probably would have beat Adamek. And just looking at his whole career, he's been dropped at least a dozen times that I can think of. And it's not just some of the top guys. Like Golovkin is a top cruiserweight, but Cunningham's been dropped by journeymen. Look back at some of his fights. Just go on YouTube and find stuff against guys that you've never heard of that actually dropped him. It's just getting to a point where he's going to be another sad story in boxing if somebody close to him doesn't speak with him and do the right thing. Now, the light heavyweight fight with Marcus Brown, who's an undefeated prospect, one of the Olympians from America in 2012, one of the better looking Olympians from that class. One of the PBC's, I don't want to say top prospects, but they were touting him as a top prospect. Went up against, I'm going to butcher this name, Gennady GGG. I think I got it somewhat right. Wins by split decision. And this was, so far, I believe, the robbery of the year. I think it's the leading candidate for robbery of the year. It was only an 8-round fight, I believe. Both fighters were dropped. But if you looked at the body language of both of these guys after the fight was over, and their corners, if you just saw the body language of their corners, you knew who won this damn fight. All the fans there at the house in Barclays knew who won the fight, and everybody watching on TV did. When they announced the scores for this and Brown got it, Twitter went nuts. And, it was only diehard boxing fans tweeting about it, obviously. Casuals weren't watching this, but this was a robbery. If you haven't seen this yet, find it on YouTube or something. If, some of you guys overseas who didn't get a chance to see this fight, and you tell me. But I think this is a runaway for robbery of the year. It was just the house guy got the decision. And of course, Gennady GGG, him and his team, I remember they interviewed him after the fight. Dude was so distraught. He had sunglasses on. He was wearing his hood from his robe and everything. And he was saying he wanted a rematch, immediate rematch. And of course, Marcus Brown is saying, I won the fight. We're moving forward. If he keeps winning and I keep winning, we'll get to a rematch. And I've actually heard from some of the media people who covered that event, who were there, who went to the post-fight presser and were asking, the powers that be, hey, are you going to demand a rematch? They were basically saying the same thing. Hey, Brown won. If this guy keeps winning and our guy keeps winning and the fans want it, maybe a couple years, 2-3 years down the road, we could do a rematch. So there you have it, right? The fans reacted to something, the press reacted to something, and the promoter, the manager, the fighters, not responding. That's the problem with PBC. Main event, what everyone's talking about. Errol Spence, 5th round TKO win over Karas-Algieri, and he just tuned this dude up. Dropped him several times. I believe he dropped him once in the 4th and twice in the 5th. And the third knockdown came from a sweeping left hand. Algieri left himself wide open, and they showed the slow motion over and over of Algieri's head just snapping and him going down. Algieri, his wits were with him. And you just saw this look on his face where he's like, shit. He knew he screwed up, but he had nothing left to give. And the ref wisely called this off. Now, 2 things, okay? There's 2 sides to this. First of all, good job by Al Haymon and PBC making this fight. This is the kind of step-up match that a prospect like Errol Spence needs to build him the right way, okay? Good job. For all the shit I've talked, this was a good job. Good matchmaking. For Spence, this was his first real test as a professional against a guy who's gone rounds with very good fighters, including 12 rounds with an all-time great, Manny Pacquiao. And I think Spence passed with an A. You have to give, if you're grading this, A+. He passed with, we'll give him an A because he took a few shots. But he passed with flying colors. Here's the flip side of that, though. We have to be cognizant. We have to remember this, okay? Algieri came into this fight losing 2 of his last 3 fights. And many felt he did not beat Provodnikov. Many felt he did not deserve that decision. So you could argue reasonably that he came into this fight having lost 3 of his last 4 fights. The bulk of his career was at 140 pounds, where he wasn't even a power puncher at 140. This was at 147. He has no pop. He's never had a good defense. He was dropped by Provodnikov. He was dropped by Pacquiao numerous times. And he was competitive with Amir Khan, who I think took him lightly when they fought last year. But Amir Khan, I thought, clearly won that fight, 8 rounds to 4, somewhere in there, right? And styles make fights and all that. But Algieri took punishment in that fight against Khan. He's taken a lot of punishment over the last couple of years. He's fought a tough string of opposition. He came into this fight softened up a lot. And Spence got him after all those whoopings he took, after all that punishment he took. Now, to Spence's credit, again, he passed the test. He did what he was supposed to do. But I saw some tweets going nuts saying that he's going to destroy Kell Brook, who he is now the mandatory for. He's the top welterweight in the world, not named Mayweather or Pacquiao. He would destroy the winner of Thurman, Porter, etc., etc. Guys, slow down. Slow down. It's just like the Felix Verdejo thing I was talking about before. Errol Spence, we haven't seen him in with a puncher. We haven't seen him in there with a guy who has good balance, good footwork, good defense. Algieri has none of those things. Algieri is a good all-around athlete, a smart guy, and a good quality, fundamentally sound boxer. But he wasn't boxing in this fight. He didn't fight Spence the way he fought Provodnikov. And I understand, Spence is a lot better than Provodnikov. But his style over the last year or so has changed. He's tried to change his style to become more exciting and a little more explosive and offensive, and it doesn't work for him. He's just not that kind of guy. So great performance from Spence. But this was just one step, okay? there's going to be another step and then another step. I say he has graduated from prospect to junior contender. We can call him a contender now. He is a junior contender at welterweight. He's not ready to go up against the top elite, but he's ready to go up against that mid-top 10 level right now. I believe that. Let's just give him some time. He's Kell Brook's mandatory, but Brook has a whole year to take care of that mandatory. So Brook's going to go for a money fight, a name, somebody like that first. And that's good for Spence. Spence needs to get in there with some more guys like Algieri. Look, you guys might groan. I didn't even think of this until I saw Steve Kim and Michael Baca and Doug Fisher yesterday. I filmed some episodes of 10 Count for Undisputed Champion Network, and we were talking about this. And one of them brought up, hey, what about the winner between the Ortiz and Berto rematch? Don't cringe too much. That actually makes a lot of sense. The winner of that fight would be a nice fight for Spence and a nice name brand building type of matchup, especially, let's just say Ortiz beats Berto. If they put that fight in Texas, if Berto beats Ortiz, then I don't know where you put that fight. Berto doesn't really have a home base of operations. He's fought in California a lot though. But Ortiz being a Mexican guy, even though he's from California, he has a name. If Ortiz beats Berto again and they can lure him down there to Texas where Spence is from, I think that'd be a smart brand building type of fight for him. This Saturday, a few miles from where I live, at the Forum in Inglewood, California, Triple G, Gennady Golovkin, the middleweight champ of the world. This guy, I don't know if you can see this. This guy is going up against undefeated Dominic Wade in a mandatory fight for his IBF title. And real quick, I saw Gennady Golovkin at the Los Angeles Dodgers game, the baseball team here, for those of you who don't know. Sunday, saw him, Abel, Tom, Bernie, all the guys, and I interviewed Gennady, I interviewed Abel. So check out those videos on my channel if you haven't seen them already. Gennady threw out the first pitch. Pretty funny, man, because he, when I was interviewing him, I was asking him, do you practice this? And he just said, like in his broken English, he was, how do you put it? I don't know technique, I just know power, And I didn't really get what he was saying, but then when I saw him throw the pitch, then I figured it out. His pitch went like 8-9 feet. It was over the plate. But it was 9 feet over the plate. And the catcher, who is a tall guy, I think his name is Adrian Gonzalez, he's my height. He had to jump way up there to catch the pitch. And it was pretty fast. It was straight, but it was all power. There's no technique. It was pretty funny, man. So check that out on my channel. But anyway, let's get to the fight. Look, this you guys know the story here. Toriano Johnson won the mandatory position with the IBF last year on the Golovkin-Lemieux undercard. He got hurt. He had to get surgery, so the IBF, bumped him off. The next guy in line was Dominic Wade, who is 18-0 with 12 knockouts. He earned this mandatory position by beating Sam Solomon last June. Dropped Sam Solomon twice. It's not easy to drop Sam Solomon. Although he is a little older, he's an awkward guy who knows how to protect himself. So to drop him twice is pretty impressive. But he won by split decision. And a lot of people felt that, that fight could have went either way. It was really the knockdowns that made the difference for Wade. Wade himself, only been dropped once. I look back, he was dropped in a 6-rounder. I want to say back in 2014, in the first round. And that was probably his toughest moment yet as a pro. There's a lot we don't know about Wade. I'll say this, though. He's a little taller than Triple G, younger, longer arms, has good power with his right hand, had a decent amateur background here in the United States mostly, a lot of regional tournaments and stuff, didn't go overseas a whole lot. He's not trash. He's not trash. In fact, I think he might be a step up from Willie Monroe Jr. We'll find out. He's bigger than Willie Monroe. For Triple G, Steve Kim actually asked me yesterday, he was like, is this a lose-lose situation for Golovkin? I don't think so, because, Golovkin's like a 60-1 favorite. I don't think this is a lose-lose situation for him. I'll tell you why. For the haters, they're going to hate on Golovkin. If he gets a first-round knockout, they're going to say, hey, man, he was supposed to do that. This guy's trash. If it goes 6, 7, 8 rounds, if it goes the distance, they're going to hate on him, and say, oh, this guy took you the distance. But for Triple G fans who are buying a ticket to go to this fight, and I just talked to Tom Loeffler Sunday at that Dodgers game, and I asked him, and he told me, I said, hey, can I talk about this on my show? He said, yeah, go ahead. They expect to do over 16,000 at the Forum. And a boxing sellout at the Forum is a little over 15,000. They're actually squeezing more seats in there to fit in what they expect to be 16,000, which they think will be the biggest crowd for an event at the Forum, any event, including concerts, since they refurbished it and redid it a few years back. One of the biggest crowds for boxing since the 70s, when the Forum was a huge venue. It was pretty much the only venue in town that did stuff like that, right? And that was, the heyday of boxing for a lot of American fighters in the 70s. So it's a big deal that for a mandatory fight, he can do this. Triple G can sell that many tickets. It's a big deal, and that's why I think this is a win-win for him and his fans. But he's got to go out there and take care of business. Obviously, I think that he's going to feel Wade out for a few rounds. He doesn't know what Wade brings. He's an undefeated fighter. You got to feel him out a little bit, and then he goes for the kill. I look for a mid-round stoppage here from Gennady Golovkin. Now, here's the fight that I think is going to steal the show, actually. Roman Chocolatito Gonzalez is taking on McWilliams-Arroyo, Puerto Rican fighter who is 16-2, 14 knockouts as a pro. A lot of people look at that record and they think, oh, this guy's nothing. But look, one of those losses was his 4th fight. It was a 4-rounder. He was dropped in that fight, and that really made the difference. So that's kind of a wash, right? The other loss was a split decision loss to Thai titleist Amnat Ruenroeng in 2014. He dropped Ruenroeng in the 6th round, and many people feel he should have won that fight. They felt it was a robbery. It was in Thailand, all right? Arroyo, 2008 Olympian, a very, very accomplished amateur in Puerto Rico, where he's from. So this guy knows how to handle himself. And mark my words, he's going to give Gonzalez a push in the early rounds. Now, I know I said that about Brian Viloria last year, and Gonzalez chopped him down. But in the early rounds, Viloria showed him some things. And he made Chocolatito adjust. He made him take it to a higher level. I think Arroyo is going to do the same thing. I think Arroyo is going to have some moments early in the fight, and we're going to see just how special Chocolatito is. He's going to have to raise his game again to another level, and Arroyo won't be able to match it. And then he'll wear him down. I think this fight can go into the later rounds. And I'm just going to call it right now. I think this is going to go late rounds like the Viloria fight did. But I think eventually Gonzalez chops him down. And it's the little drama show, the big drama show. For all you guys here in the States, especially in the LA area, if you're coming out to the fight, you want to say hi, I'll be there. Try to get there early. So, hit me up on Twitter. You guys, if you haven't followed me on Twitter yet, Montero Unboxing. If you want to shoot me an email, it's monterounboxing@gmail.com. Or just comment on this video down below. But yeah, if you want to say hi or something, I'd love to talk to you guys in person. I love talking to you guys here on YouTube and on Twitter and everything. But I've bumped into several of you guys over the course of the last year or so, just at fights and stuff. And it's always fun. So get at me, and I'll see you guys at the fights. And next week, I'll give you a full report on the atmosphere there at the Forum. It should be electric.